Okay, so this is the second part of the walkthrough, and I'd like to draw your attention to the highlighted text here. Questions 9 to 14 are about document 2. Make sure you refer to document 2 when answering these questions. Sounds straightforward, but people panic a little bit in the exams, and I have had students spend a good 5-10 minutes in mock exams trying to find answers in document 1 when the questions are about document 2. So make sure you pay attention to what's written on the exam paper. Sounds straightforward, but please do make sure you do it. So, which of the following statements best summarises Plastic Free's belief about how change can be achieved? So again, this is a sort of summary in part. But what you're also doing here is you are actually having a look for their beliefs, their opinions. And fact, opinion and bias, section 5 will help you with this, as will section 8, implied meaning, and a little bit of section 7, comparing and contrasting, because you're identifying the opinions that the author of this document holds. And reading through it, if you want to pause the video now, and you want to read through, and you want to figure out which one best sums this up. Alright, so it's not A, because apart from anything else, this is a small charity and it is working towards... It's not really saying we need to stop making things out of plastic. In fact, it sort of says that plastic's all around us. It gives us so many examples of plastics that we can, there's no way that they are calling for plastic to be banned completely. What they want people to do is they want individuals, to stop buying single-use plastic. You can't blame businesses for selling plastic products. People buy them. Sort of, yeah, because their entire angle here, especially in time for change, is individuals buy single-use plastics. So that's sort of potentially correct, right? C, collective action is needed to bring about change. Again, not really, because this advert is pretty much entirely about how individuals can change things. Not as a group, but individuals deciding not to buy these things. So if we look at D, individual consumers can make a difference, seems to be the strongest one here. It actually says, however, as individuals, we are the ones that hold the power to make the biggest change. If we all keep buying single-use plastic products, businesses will only keep on selling them. So, yeah, it's between those two, B and D. And actually it's D, because there's more focus on what individual consumers can do to make a difference. So, moving on. In which section of the document would you find information on the effects of plastics on the food humans eat? So, what you're doing here is you're looking at the document and you're finding out where this information is. And what you'd want to do is look at session 1 for this, reading for meaning and identifying specific meaning, because that goes into how to read specifically for keywords. So, we would basically scan read this, looking for where it's talking about human health and what people eat. And we've noticed that under oceans and marine life, you've got this here. But it can also have an impact on human health, as a study found that plastic microparticles can get into the flesh of fish eaten by humans. So the oceans and marine life. Question 11 is main purposes of document 2. Okay, so for this, you probably want to look for section 3, purpose and audience. And again, it's multiple choice. You've got to pick 2. So have a read and have a think about it. Pause the video and we'll get back. So, it's not written to inquire. It's not really asking questions. It's giving us plenty of answers. It's also not written to entertain, really, is it? Or amuse. It's not particularly amusing. It's not written like a bit of fiction. So that leaves us with D, E and F. Well, it seems to be trying to persuade us to do something, doesn't it? It's persuading us not to buy single-use plastics. It's not really narrating. It's not telling a story. So that leaves us with to persuade and to inspire. So again, with multiple choice questions, remember it can be quite useful to identify what the answer isn't. Right, question 12. So with this question, it's worth 4 marks. So you need to identify 2 examples of where the reader has used emotive language and give a different effect each one has on the reader. So you need to be specific here. And again, you probably want to be looking at section 6, language and textual features, if you're a little bit stuck on this. Now, there are lots of potential answers, so I'm just going to show you the mark scheme here. So, the mark scheme for this question. Now, you will get marks for the effects, and you'll get marks for the examples. So it's given us a bunch of different examples, like help us save the sea, go plastic free is emotive language. We're a small charity with a huge task ahead of us. So as you can see, there are plenty of examples here of emotive language. Now, there are different effects that this might have on the reader. So, for example, it is truly shocking. It's probably written to shock you, isn't it? As individuals, it is extremely important that we recognise it is our responsibility to make changes. Well, the effect on you is it's trying to make you believe that you are responsible for this and you can change it. Harmful to marine animals and birds, which can end up being choked, poisoned and entangled. Well, it's probably making you feel a degree of sympathy, isn't it? It's making you feel sorry for the animals. So there are lots of potential effects. And they will... This is reasonably open in that they do not need you to exactly use the word shock here. Okay? You don't need to say, well, it makes the reader take the issue seriously. You know, you could phrase that differently. You could say, well, the effect of this is to make you believe that it's a big issue. That would be absolutely fine as well. Okay? So, moving on to question 13. Give 2 examples of single-use plastic products. If you're stuck on this, you want session 1, reading for meaning, identifying specific meaning. This one is fairly straightforward. You are just looking through the document and looking for examples of single-use products. So pause the video if you like. Have a good... Right, there are a bunch mentioned here. Just remember, you have to draw them from the text. So you could have straws, you could have coffee cups, you could have takeaway containers, and there are a couple more used here as well. Okay? But just remember, they do have to be referenced in the text. Again, nice straightforward question there. Right, question 14. Give 2 examples of factual evidence the writer uses to back up opinions. So this is where they're providing some sort of fact. And I would suggest here looking for statistics. And again, if you're stuck on this, fact, opinion and bias would be very useful here for you. So there are a bunch of different examples here. If we just have a quick look, we could have the 4 trillion plastic bags, 300 million tons of plastic, study found in 2017 found the plastic microparticles can get into the flesh of fish eaten by people, 8.5 billion plastic straws. Various different facts here have been used, so this shouldn't be too difficult. Moving on to question 15. Now, question 15 is about both documents. So, unsurprisingly, you are going to be expected to compare and contrast. If you're stuck on this at all, there's an entire section on the Moodle dedicated to this. Section 7, comparing and contrasting. Do give it a quick go through. Now, what we need to do here is we need to look... Firstly, we need to identify the different views on how the problem of plastic waste can be solved. Then we need to use supporting evidence. And we need to make sure here we are comparing. Okay? So, firstly, it's their views on how the problem of plastic waste can be solved. If we remember, if we go back to document 1, and you may want to pause the video now and have a go at it. If you want to have a go at this question, pause the video now and have a go at it. Right, assuming you've had a go now, firstly, we need to identify the point of view about what needs to be done about plastics. Now, if we look through Liz Bonin's comments here, she actually says here, it's not going to be fixed by consumers simply saying no to straws. So that is a direct contrast. You know, these two texts have completely different opinions on how to fix this. Document 1 is talking about governments coming in and banning use of single-use plastic. Document 2 believes that it's the individuals that need to stop buying it. So that's our immediate contrast right there. Document 1 is talking about how the government should step in and ban this stuff. Document 2 is talking about how it's the individuals who need to stop buying it. Okay? And you can use various different bits of evidence here to back this up. So if we have a quick look here, this is what you get. You get valid comparisons. Supported by one piece of supporting evidence from document 1 and one piece of supporting evidence from document 2. Okay? And you also need to start thinking here about how language has been used to convey views. So, once we've answered this particular question, you'll notice that question 15 then asks you to give one similarity and one difference in the way language is used to convey the views in documents 1 and 2, and to support your answer with evidence from each document. So again, what you're doing here is you're looking for specific language features. So if you have a look here at section 6, that deals with language and textual features, and section 5, fact and opinion and bias, both of those will help here, and also section 7, comparing and contrasting. What you need to be doing here is you need to be identifying where the writers are using language, so things like rhetorical questions, use of statistics, whatever, to have an effect on you, the reader, and convince them that they're right. And you'll see here, according to the mark scheme, you've got use of quotations, you've got rhetorical questions, you've got question and answer are used in document 1. And document 2, you've got your imperatives, so go plastic free, help us save the sea, go plastic free, you've got a nice rhyme there, you've got slogans directly addressing the reader, use of capital letters for evidence, and you've got to find potentially some similarity, you've got to find a similarity or a difference and back it up. So there are some differences in how they use language, and there are also some similarities. So, for example, both documents use bias statements, both use facts and statistics, and both use persuasive language. So, here what you've got to do is you've got to decide whether you're going to be looking at similarities or differences. Okay, I would suggest potentially looking at similarities in this style of question because odds are that's going to be a little bit easier to find. So there we go. There's the walkthrough for the level 2 reading question paper.